Hey everybody, what's going on? It's me, it's Karen. It is December 27th, 2021, almost about to be 2022. I started reading every day this book in 2016. I didn't know that it had been that long, like 6 years ago. I thought it was been like 2 years. I started in 2016, and one day, for some reason, just stopped and haven't continued since then. I tried to continue about a year and a half ago. I think I did a couple of videos, but I don't know where they went. So this is a book by Charles R. Swindoll, and the book is A Man of Integrity and Forgiveness, Joseph. So I'm sure anybody that has been following this from the start, from like almost 7 years ago, has long since realized that I wasn't gonna finish it. But the Lord wanted me to finish it last year before 2021 came. And I just feel like it is time to finish it. So I'm gonna read 8 to 10 pages a day until it's done. I'm going to try to get it done before the 1st of January. However, I have tonight, the 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th. I have 4 days, including tonight, to get it done. And I know that I have more than 40 pages left. So we'll see. I need to wet my whistle. I need a little bit of water here. This is an old book. So if anybody happens to have it, which probably not a lot of people do, and you want to follow along, we're at the top of page 176. Okay? And if you want to know what happened prior to this, you can watch the full series from day one, or you can just go back to day 28 and brush up on some of the stuff. Okay. So far, the journey started with Joseph, and by his brothers putting him to a pit and selling him. And then somehow he went to jail, and then he went to Potiphar's house, and he went a lot of places, and I don't remember because it's been over 6 years since I read it. But this is his journey, and then he became a servant to the king of Egypt. Cut. Excuse me. 3, 2, 1, go. And just before I continue, I will let you that this is scripture based. This is not just a novel. This does have scripture to back it up. Okay? As an employee, Joseph was loyal, accountable, wise, objective, and efficient. As a leader, he was efficient, wise, objective, and flexible. There was also a quiet and secure calmness in his leadership that is beautiful to watch. Which brings us to a third characteristic of Joseph. He arranged for survival with personal integrity. We're back to this quality of integrity again. It surfaces over and over in the man's life and leadership. In this case, notice how thoroughly he was trusted. This is Genesis 47:13 and 15. Now, there was no food in all the land, because the famine was very severe, so that the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan languished because of the famine. And Joseph gathered all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the grain which they bought. And Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. That's who he served. And when the money was all spent in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came to Joseph and said, "Give us food, for why should we die in your presence? For our money is gone." As the years of famine progressed, everyday life as they had once enjoyed it deteriorated. Not unlike the Great Depression years in America, and the people began to panic. Their very survival was at stake. At that point, Joseph was given enormous power. He held their lives, their future in the palm of his hand. After all, Joseph not only built the granaries, he carried the keys. What a perfect opportunity for a leader to rip off the public, to stash away some of the money, to give food only to his family or a few of his favorites. With the complete trust that Pharaoh put in him, Joseph wasn't about to be second-guessed. There's one thing that I have to add right now. I don't enjoy some of the opinions of Mr. Swindoll in this. So I'm reading this for the knowledge of what Joseph's life was, but his Joseph Swindoll's opinion, I don't like too much. Just tell us a story. Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. After all, Joseph had to live with Joseph. Even more importantly, Joseph had to face his God. So the distribution was done decently and in order. All the money went into the proper account. There was no payola, no kickback. He never set up some kind of offshore account. There was no secret slush fund. Joseph operated with absolute integrity, and in doing so, it guaranteed the survival of the Egyptians, the Canaanites, and the Hebrews, and other countries. When he had worked for Potiphar many years earlier, he evidenced the same trustworthiness as he does now. Over 2 decades have passed. His roles have changed dramatically, but his integrity remained intact. Why was Joseph like this? A hint is given back in Genesis 41:33. When Joseph, after interpreting Pharaoh's dreams as predicting 7 years of abundance and 7 years of famine, warned, "And now let Pharaoh look for a man discerning and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt." God had been preparing Joseph for the very position he predicted would be needed for a long time. Cut. Need water. Should have just got 2 Big Mac meals and in 3, 2, 1. Go. Go. The word discerning in that statement Joseph made means to have shrewd insight into a situation and its needs. That's a quality a leader must have. It amounts to a sixth sense of anticipation. A leader must also be wise. That word in the Hebrew is most often used with constructive activity attached to it. A wise leader is a builder, not a destroyer. Pharaoh, you need someone who will not split the land apart. You'll have enough trouble with the famine. You need to have a man who can rally the people together and keep them together. Tough task, keeping people together when they're starving. How can that be done? Well, among other things, you believe in human dignity. You don't take advantage of people who are at your mercy. Several years ago, I met with a young man who had just come out of an abusive church situation with cult-like tendencies. This is Swindle talking, where the leadership modeled intimidation and humiliation to keep people in line. That guy's words. I can still remember his telling me, the thing that was destroyed in me while I was in this situation was my personal dignity. Actually, cut this part out. Thank you, God, for giving me more. Cut 3, 2, 1, go. The people came to Joseph with their hands empty and open, and he responded by upholding their dignity and treating them with respect. And keep in mind, he had everything, but they had nothing. Our money is gone, our food is gone. They were completely at Joseph's mercy. Then Joseph said, give up your livestock, and I will give you food for your livestock, since your money is gone. So they brought their livestock to Joseph, and Joseph gave them food in exchange for the horses and flocks and the herds and the donkeys, and he fed them with food in exchange for all their livestock that year. That was Genesis 47, 16, and 17. He didn't shrug his shoulders and give them a handout. He didn't put them on welfare. Instead, he told them to bring him what they had, their livestock, and in exchange he would give them food. This method of exchange went on for an entire year. That's one of the major reasons they survived the famine. This is Genesis 47, 18 to 26. And when that year was ended, they came to him the next year and said to him, we will not hide from my Lord that our money is all spent, and the cattle are my Lord's. There is nothing left for my Lord except our bodies and our lands. Why should we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for food, and we and our land will be slaves to Pharaoh. So give us seed that we may live and not die, and that the land may not be desolate. So Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh, for every Egyptian sold his field, because the famine was severe upon them. Thus the land became Pharaoh's, and as for the people, he removed them to the cities from one end of Egypt's border to the other. Only the land of the priests he did not buy, for the priest had an allotment from Pharaoh, and they lived off the allotment which Pharaoh gave them. Cut. Go. Therefore they did not sell their land. Then Joseph said to the people, behold, I have today bought you and your land for Pharaoh. Now here is seed for you, and you may sow the land. And at the harvest you shall give a fifth to Pharaoh, and 4/5 shall be your own for seed of the field for your food, and for those of your households, and as food for your little ones. So they said, you have saved our lives. Let us find favor in the sight of my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's slaves. And Joseph made it a statute concerning the land of Egypt, valid to this day, that Pharaoh should have the fifth. Only the land of the priests did not become Pharaoh's. Again, that was Genesis 47:18-26. A year later, with the famine still going strong, all of their livestock were gone, and they were back on their knees with their hands empty and open, saying, "Help us, Joseph. What do we do now? Buy our land for food. Buy us. We will serve Pharaoh. Only help us get through these awful years." In their desperation, they put themselves entirely at Joseph's mercy. What is striking is that Joseph did not abuse that power, not once. God had raised him up from slavery, and he never forgot how marvelous a deliverance that was. To whom much has been given, much is required. With a single heart, mind, and will, Joseph dealt fairly and honestly with all who trusted him with their money. When they held up their hands and passionately declared, "We'll do anything," he remained fair and compassionate. Joseph had an innovative plan, something that had never been done before. In order for the land to produce, we must spread out over this land. Prior to this, they had been settled in only a few well-populated regions. Those places represented their homes, their work, their farms, their neighborhoods. They were asked to relinquish all that. That took some selling, an awful lot of convincing, but Joseph managed it, and he spread the people out across the land of Egypt, from one end of Egypt's border to another. "You have seed, you can plant," Joseph said, "and if you do that, someday you will be able to harvest. You will once again have your own income. You'll be able to make it for yourself." He only had one stipulation: at harvest you shall give a fifth to Pharaoh. The rest shall be your own to eat and to reseed your fields. He responded creatively and treated the people with integrity and dignity. He made them self-sufficient. "You have saved our lives," they exclaimed. Because of the man Joseph was, they believed in him. They listened to him. They accepted his plan. They sacrificed and worked hard, and they were grateful. This is Genesis 47:27-28. Now Israel lived in the land of Egypt and Goshen, and they acquired property in it, and were fruitful and became very numerous. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. So the length of Jacob's life was 147. Remember, Jacob is Joseph's father. His life was 147 years. Jacob's people, now called by his God-given name, Israel, became abundantly fruitful. Young couples married, babies were born, and their numbers greatly increased. Then after 17 years in the land of Egypt, Jacob marked his 147th birthday. He, like his favorite son, had known numerous ups and downs, many failures, yet many blessings from his forgiving Lord. Jacob realized that the angel of death was near his bedside. Not surprisingly, he called Joseph in. Genesis 47:29-31. When the time for Israel to die drew near, he called his son Joseph and said to him, "Please, if I have found favor in your sight, place now your hand under my thigh and deal with me in kindness and faithfulness. Please do not bury me in Egypt, but when I lie down with my fathers, you shall carry me out of Egypt and bury me in their burial place. And Joseph said, I will do as you have said. And Jacob said, swear to me. So he, Joseph, swore to him. Then Israel bowed in worship at the head of the bed. Promise me before our God, Joseph, that you will bury me back in my father's land. Promise to bury me over there in Canaan, the land of our people, not here in Egypt. God brought us to Egypt so we could survive the famine, but I want to be buried in the land of our forefathers, along with Abraham and Isaac and Leah. Take me back there. Don't bury me in Egypt. Swear before God that will not happen. And Joseph swore to keep this promise to his father. Joseph's father, Jacob, wanted to be buried in Canaan because it was the promised land that God had for them. Now, this next scripture is Genesis 48, 5, 10, 11, 14 through 16. And now your 2 sons who were born to you in the land of Egypt before I came to you in Egypt are mine. Ephraim and Manasseh shall be mine, as Reuben and Simeon are. Now the eyes of Israel were so dim from the age that he could not see. Then Joseph brought them close to him, and he kissed them and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, I never expected to see your face, and behold, God has let me see your children as well. But Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on the head of Ephraim, who was the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, crossing his hands, although Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph and said, the God before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has been my shepherd all my life to this day, the angel who has redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads, and may my name live on in them, and the names of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and may they grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. Because Joseph had been a special son to Jacob, Joseph's sons were special to their grandfather as well. Joseph's sons were with their grandfather as he approached those final moments. They felt his hand on their foreheads and heard his tender, wise words of blessing. May God bless the nation as he blesses you. What a moment. Perhaps Manasseh and Ephraim were kneeling beside their granddad. What a lasting impact for good on the lives of those 2 young men. Genesis 49, 1 and 2. Then Jacob summoned his sons and said, assemble yourselves, that I may tell you what shall befall you in the days to come. Gather together and hear, O sons of Jacob, and listen to Israel your father. Despite his age and infirmity, Jacob's memory was nothing short of remarkable. He could name each one of his boys, and he could describe their individual natures and recall with pertinent detail the lives they had lived. Although he had not always disciplined them appropriately or wisely, he knew his sons well. No doubt the Lord assisted at this touching moment of his life by providing the prophetic insight passed on by his aging father. From the firstborn, Reuben, through the youngest, Benjamin, Jacob blessed not only his sons, but the 12 tribes that would descend from them. It's Genesis 49, verse 28. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is what their father said to them when he blessed them. He blessed them every one with the blessing appropriate to him. After this, Jacob gave specific instructions about where he was to be buried, in keeping with the promise Joseph had made to him earlier. And then this beautiful statement. When Jacob finished charging his sons, he drew his feet into the bed and breathed his last, and was gathered to his people. Genesis 49, verse 33. Those who have eternal hope, through grieving over the instant loss death brings and the painful absence that follows, must remember and be comforted by the realization that when the believer is taken from this life, he or she is gathered into the place of the saints. And it says Jacob was gathered to his people, absent from the body, face to face with the Lord. How simple, yet how sacred the moment. With one quiet and final sigh, the old patriarch joined the eternal ranks of departed saints. And that is it. And now we are on the bottom of page 198. So we have about 10 to 12 pages left, and I know this might be a long video, but I skipped a lot in here. Not of Joseph's story, but of Swindoll, his comments and quotings and stuff like that, but I didn't skip anything of the scriptures and Joseph's life. So I am so excited. Let me take my little bookmarker here, index card, and I will continue tomorrow with the story of Joseph. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, y'all.